Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Hank Goldberg from Las Vegas. The weather's getting nicer out here, Hank, and the games for this weekend, I'm sure, are going to be just hot and heavy like they've been going for you and me for the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, welcome aboard. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, now you got the baseball semifinals coming up, leading to the World Series. I think Milwaukee is really hot right now. They've won 11 straight games. I think I like Milwaukee against the Dodgers. I think the pitching right now is superior, and they're hitting the ball well. They're just playing great right now. The Dodgers have been kind of up and down. There's Milwaukee looks like a strong team. And I'll tell you something about the Red Sox. The way they're hitting right now, I know you're unhappy with the way Boone managed, but I'll tell you 2 things about it. He used his bullpen up the day before, so he didn't have any much left there. When he scored all those runs in Game 4 or whatever it was, Game 3, but it was Game 3. And so he was, really stuck, and he was hoping that Sabathia would give him 5 or 6 innings, and that didn't happen. So, and the Red Sox are right now just hitting the ball so well up and down their lineup. I don't think the Red Sox are going to be stopped.
Well, they're running into a pretty hot Houston team, but I think that's going to be a great series, personally. I'm really excited to watch these games. I can't wait till they get started. We had a big game on Monday night in football, Hank, where Drew Brees, and now the big argument is where does he rank, on an all-time basis. I don't know, it's hard to get involved with that. But he had a hell of a game, and Alex Smith did not.
Alex Smith was uncharacteristic of Alex Smith, who usually plays mistake-free football, and he was way off target on his passes, and he just did nothing. Did not keep his team in the game. Adrian Peterson got hurt early, yet he stayed in the game, and they probably lost him. Yeah, they had an extra week to get ready for that game, and Gruden had nothing special planned, and he made an ordinary defense look great, I thought, because they just, they couldn't complete passes. They had no answers, and I just thought it came in, looked like they were very unprepared to play. Breeze had all kinds of. Breeze was just basically playing catch. They had receivers who were just so wide open. It was ridiculous. They had no, whatever the defense was that Washington was playing was not working, and they made no adjustments. And so Breeze had the whole field wide open, and he just had guys running free. And you know what? It was a joke, frankly. They kept talking about how he was getting to this record and that record, and there was no stopping him. There was no pass rush, and there was no deep ball defense. And I was really shocked at the way Washington played, because their defense had been playing pretty well going into that game. And they got some guys hurt. And meanwhile, New Orleans looked like a champion. They had not been playing that well at home, but it just was it was all about the record. And it looked like Washington just came to watch and achieve it. I was really disappointed in the way they played. Not just because I picked them.
Yeah, I was too. We both had the loser in that game. I was equally disappointed. Totally agree with you on everything you said there. Well,
everybody in the contest had Washington. It was very interesting to see what happened in the contest this week, because there's one guy who's at 20, and then you go down a couple of notches to whoever's next. Right now, I'm only at 14 and a half, and I only have to get up to, I think, I have to get to 109 places to get into the money.
Is that right?
I just have
They're paying
I don't have to catch that many guys.
They're paying 109. Is that what they're doing this year?
Yeah.
Oh,
There are 109 places right now are in the money,
real.
and there are 529 people ahead of me, so I basically only have to pass 400 guys to get in the money.
Well, it's a long way to go, and I think you'll do that because last year you were pretty amazing.
Well, you know what? There's 3,200 people in the contest, and I'm in the top 529 right now.
That's pretty damn good. Top 20%, top 15%, that's pretty good. Well, I expect you to, this is a good card this week in the pros. We got our first London game this week where Seattle is going to play Oakland across the pond. That's an early game, of course, but Seattle is 3 or 2.5, and the total's 48 against Oakland, who looked pretty miserable last week against the Chargers. I believe we have 4 games across the pond or in Mexico this year, which is always an interesting handicapping issue to deal with on a weekly basis with the travel and everything else that goes with it.
Now, this game's not interesting. I mean, you know, you got 2 teams that are struggling, and you know, people will buy T-shirts for the Raiders, I guess. But aside from that, I mean, Seattle's really bruised and on defense, and they're just not a very good football team right now. And the Raiders, you know, they've won 1 game. The Raiders are this year's Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, they are. Well, Seattle played a pretty good game last week against the Rams. They stayed in that game, and they found a running game and a couple runners with Carson and Davis to help Wilson. And that was an enlightenment there because they were able to run the ball on the Ram defense, which is kind of unusual. I didn't think the Rams would be giving up that many yards on the ground.
Well, the Rams, I think, probably were looking forward to what's coming up for them this week and the next couple of weeks. But the Rams still won. They had so little respect for Seattle's defense that they went for a 4th and 1.5 rather than punt at the end of the game, and they made it easily. And they pretty much, you know, they lost 2 of their wide receivers early in the game to concussions. So, and now they're on the road, and they're a 7-point favorite again on the road this week. And you know, they're just out there winning. You know, they're at Denver this week. Denver coach is in a lot of trouble right now. They got blown out by the Jets, and their secondary's not playing well. And I mean, they can't score. They can't move the ball. They're not doing anything well. I mean, the interesting games this week, I think, is Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, where you've got Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9 times they played Cincinnati. You got, frankly, I don't think it's an easy slate because you got Jacksonville and Dallas. Dallas not do much last week on defense. Tennessee got an interesting game. You've got Baltimore going down there after looking terrible in Tennessee. You've got Tennessee, which averages about 16 points a game against Baltimore, which is giving up about 13 and change. So it doesn't figure to be a lot of scoring in that game. And you figure Flacco will come back after he stunk it up last week in a game they really should have won. So, it's Washington will go to Carolina. You know, how is Smith going to play against the Carolina defense that is usually pretty good and did not play all that well last week? He gave up over 30 points. Philadelphia and the Giants, it'll be interesting. Two teams in real trouble. I'm looking for real attractive matchups this week, and I'm kind of having trouble coming up with one. New England, Kansas City, I guess, is the one game that everybody's looking forward to.
Well, yeah, that's the matchup between this remarkable young man, Patrick Mahomes, and the great New England Patriots, which have been doing it for like 17 years. There's a very disappointing Atlanta Falcons. There's only won one game this year, and they're at home against Tampa, which is, of course, switched back to Jameis Winston. That's an interesting matchup, although none of these, you don't jump off the page and just say, hey, that's going to be a great matchup between two great teams, because I don't think we have that. We don't. There's not a lot of great teams out there. By the way, you mentioned Washington going to Carolina. It's actually the other way around. Carolina's going to Washington.
Yeah.
And Washington's a pick'em or a 1-point favorite in that game. We don't have great matchups. We have teams that are struggling, and except for the Kansas City New England game. So it's now Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati came back with the big 27-point run last week to beat Miami, which was quite remarkable. They were down 17-0, won the game 27-17, and Pittsburgh bounced back with a big effort last week against Atlanta. So that's like you mentioned, that's a good matchup, an important one also. I don't think too many people are going to tune in to watch Buffalo and Houston, but a couple rumors about Buffalo trading their running back, McCoy. That game is really, there's not too many plays. Most places have that off the board, by the way. Okay, not a lineup, but I see one line right now. So that's off the board. Of course, I don't. The Jets and Indianapolis. These aren't two great teams, but interesting game. You got the Colts coming in there. The Jets are favored. The Jets had that big game last week against Denver. Chicago, after that big 48-point performance against the Tampa Bay Bucks, are 3 at Miami. I know how much you love Miami and Tannehill and Gage.
Another loss for Miami. You got Tannehill against a top defense, and Tannehill right now is playing down to his capability.
Yeah, he's never developed into the guy they thought he was going to be. That's for sure.
I could have told them that 2 years ago, and they wasted this year's draft, thinking he was going to come back strong. And Gage saying, he's my guy. Well, they both might be traveling after this year.
He's the same guy that picked Jay Cutler up for $10 million for 1 year. Wasn't a good choice there either.
Well, they were desperate. They didn't have anybody.
Well, when they got him, they still didn't have anybody.
Nope. But yeah, Gage, had coached him before and thought he could coach him up again. Thought that he was at least a good stopgap guy. He actually was the best guy who was available at the time, but they overpaid him and brought him in thinking that he could win a couple of games for him. But he did win a couple of games.
Well, anything on the card today, tomorrow, next day, whatever, the weekend?
Well, the NBA starts this week.
What are the tips for handicapping the NBA on a night-to-night basis in a league where half the teams make the playoffs?
Well, I mean, people are going to be interested to see what LeBron does with the Lakers. You know, there's some interesting teams in the East. The East is going to be very interesting this year with Boston and Philadelphia. I mean, there's some good matchups early. You know, there's always interest in New York. The Knicks will be playing Atlanta. Utah's got a decent team. I mean, there are a lot of good teams in the NBA.
Yeah, 82 game season. You get down to the playoffs, which start down in April. It's a long season, a lot of games, a lot of travel. The fatigue factor on a night-to-night basis is something we all look at. You know, when they get down to the 4 games in 5 nights, and you know, things like that. So these guys, you know, that's one of the factors I look at when handicapping day-to-day NBA hoops. That doesn't play into it, of course, in the playoffs, but in the playoffs they're going 100% every night. So it's a different world. Any horse racing coming up this weekend, Hank?
No, well, they're getting, Breeders' Cup is in 2 weeks.
Well, that's
and
big.
so
That's big.
Better horses are all getting ready for that.
Well, our plays will be up at jimfeist.com. We hope you go there and read some of the articles, listen to the podcasts, and buy some of the picks, because Hank and I have been making our customers money all season long. Hank especially has had a tremendous run in the NFL. Hank, I want to thank you for today. Unless you have anything else, I'm going to close off. But thank you for your time, energy, wisdom, as usual. And everybody out there, thank you very much for joining in and listening. Thanks, Hank.
I think tomorrow night will be a competitive game. I think it'll be a fun game to watch. It always is when those two teams play. Still Philadelphia and the Giants. But right now, Philadelphia is really struggling. And you wonder how long that's going to last.
Well, you know, Wentz came off that serious injury. It takes time for these players to get back in physical shape and mentally get by the fact that they have a body part that's injured and recovering. I've had enough of them myself, and I know you never quite know if your body's going to hold up after surgery and things. But, yeah, I understand that. We see the same thing with Deshaun Watson, who is taking way too many risks and taking way too many hits. I hope he settles down a little bit. Yeah, but you're right. Philadelphia is not playing well. That whole division there is struggling. Redskins, we saw on Monday night, didn't look good. Giants and Eagles aren't looking good. Dallas Cowboys are not looking good. You know, it's a competitive division because they're all playing bad, but nobody's standing out. It's
Well, you know, with Washington, they had been playing well going into that game. That's what was so disappointing about their performance on Monday night. Smith had been playing well. The defense ranked very high in almost every category, and they just didn't show up.
Yeah, they ran into a buzzsaw, and Drew Brees was Drew Brees on drugs, you know, on steroids. He was amazing, and Washington was the opposite. Terrible. It's a bad game to watch, bad game to bet on. I lost money, you lost money, customers lost money. Don't like that. And we'll bounce back this week. Thank you, Hank. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you again on Friday.
All right, Jim.
Thank you, buddy.